It's 8:05, so I'm gonna go ahead and start. I'm gonna review what to look for when you're doing, when you're looking for a fix and flip property. It's similar also to a property that you're gonna rehab, rent, and refinance. So using the BRRR strategy, and then also a buy and hold. The BRRR kind of it mixes the two. So I'm gonna go in order, and then um, yeah, just I guess if you have any questions, write them down. Send them in the chat. Be happy to answer at the end. We've got plenty of time for Q&A. This won't be too long. But so to start off, when you're looking for a property, I like to recommend a few different routes. The normal MLS, which would be realtor.com, is my recommendation. Or if you can connect with a broker to get automatic searches, that's going to be your best way to get the on-market properties. Zillow is not that great because it's third party, it's delayed. So while a property may go up today, it may not be on Zillow until tomorrow or the next day. So in investing, it's really useful to be speedy, to be able to see the properties and act on them quickly. So that's for the on market. Off market, I usually connect my clients who are looking for investments with wholesalers. What they'll do is these properties are not going to go on the market. They're going to be sent directly to your email. And I have a group of wholesalers that I've networked with. The way I recommend networking with other wholesalers on your own is attending real estate meetups. There's typically people there who are wholesalers because that's their target audience, investors. Also, and other investors who buy from wholesalers. And unless they're stingy, they're likely to share what lists they're on and who they buy from, or at least receive properties from. So just networking, talking to other people about how to find those off-market properties. Another great way is to join Facebook groups. So there's Facebook groups you can search Fayetteville wholesalers, Fayetteville off-market properties, whatever market you're looking at, and then searching a group that is related to that. Sometimes it can be investors because, again, wholesalers are selling to investors. That's their target audience. That's where they post. So those are properties that won't make it to the market and that are going to be great. They're going to be discounted already and prime for you to purchase, whether it be for fix and flip or BRRRR. And sometimes there's golden nuggets there where they're ready to be rented and you're buying it just simply at a discount because a wholesaler has it under contract. A third way that I love to find properties, and I purchased multiple properties here, is searching on Craigslist. So you'll want to go to Craigslist. I'll show this because I think the other two are fairly self-explanatory, but Craigslist is going to be, let me show you real quick. Share my screen, window, here we are. Okay. Okay, so for Craigslist, you're going to go on, and then under housing, it's going to be real estate for sale. Am I sharing my screen? You can see it? Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'm definitely sharing. Okay. So Craigslist under housing, real estate for sale. And then here we are. So right now I'm on Charlotte. I like to use the map because you can put a radius. I'm not buying in Charlotte. I like to buy in Fayetteville area, just let's say not too far south. So we'll put in this area and then refresh the results. And then here we go. Sometimes, there's a lot of advertisement here that is from either neighbor, like builders, can also be agents. Here we see EXP, but it's a place where wholesalers advertise because it's free. And also owners will list as well. So here we are, just, not even halfway down the page. Fayetteville flip 75K in Fayetteville is a great price already. It's a 3-1. It's a little bit older, but maybe we can work with it. There aren't any pictures here except the front. It doesn't look too bad just externally. I mean, siding looks okay. I can see that probably needs power washing. The roof looks like it's okay. Obviously, we need to verify. But this just knowing Fayetteville, let's see the general area. It's not too far out of downtown. This could be a great option. They already note that it needs an HVAC replacement, needs cosmetics, and windows needed. So we can understand that those are things we're going to need to account for off the top. And the best thing to do is hit reply. Sometimes they'll list phone numbers, emails. Okay, what is this? Click the object that only appears once. You want to help me out? Okay. Yeah. All right. So once you're on here, if you haven't used Craigslist before, great, Rebecca. So what I would do is I would shoot Rebecca an email, copy, it says a Craigslist email, but if you send her an email, say, hey, I saw your property for sale on Craigslist. It'll also link the listing so they know what you're referring to. Would love to get more pictures, information. And yeah, so what you would send them an email and say, excuse me, hey, Rebecca, saw the potential flip on Craigslist. I'm very interested, looking for a flip in the area. If you're using a hard money loan, you're a cash buyer. So you'd say, I'm a cash buyer and just wondering if there's anything past the HVAC and cosmetics and windows that are needed. Do you have any additional pictures and videos you could share with me? Also, how could I set up a showing to check it out? So if you're working with a broker in that area, like myself, I'd be happy to go. Can also go yourself and check it out. And then also what I would do outside of the email is send a text. Usually that's pretty quick. And then during the daytime hours, I would also give Rebecca a call and say, hey, Rebecca, my name is Dimitri. I saw the property for sale. Would love to get more information on it. I'm very interested. So that's how I'd go about this. You receive that information, and then you can go ahead and dissect. You can put it into the fix and flip calculator, the BRRRR calculator that I've shared. You also can better understand. You can also set up a showing and then better understand the type of work that needs to get done. That way you can do your analysis and understand if it's a deal you want to move forward with. Something else that I would ask is there a certain time frame that you're looking to close this? Because wholesalers usually only get these properties under contract for 30 to 90 days. It's not likely they can go past 90 days. So it might be 45, might be 60. They're looking to move it, which means they're advertising it. They definitely have a spread at $75,000. We don't know if they have it under contract for 70 or 25. So understanding their urgency to sell, whether it be a wholesaler or generally an owner, that will help us in our negotiating. You could also ask, what type of interest do you have? Do you have any active contracts? Sometimes they'll bluff and they'll say, oh yeah, we have lots of interest. We have some verbal offers, but nothing in writing yet. You take it with a grain of salt, but sometimes people are honest. Sometimes you can really kind of tell from there what your urgency should be. And then also just in general, what type of offer you can send their way. So those are the type of things that you can do past that. So that's how I like to find properties. Another question I always ask on Craigslist is, you say I'm a cash buyer, but also maybe not early in the conversation, a little bit further down, you would say, hey, is the seller open to any type of creative financing, second lien, holding the down payment, things like holding the down payment, basically. That way you would be almost no money out of pocket, because if your hard money loan is 10,000 or 10% and they're willing to seller finance you 10%, you just basically got the property for closing costs. If it's a rental, then same thing. You could potentially get a property for closing costs only. So that's great. That is how I like to find properties and how I search for them. Craigslist is really awesome for that. And surprisingly, just not a lot of people use it. Here's a quote unquote charming bungalow in Sanford. Okay, the words don't really mean anything because we check out the pictures and it clearly needs work. It's clearly old, but it could certainly be a great opportunity. They're asking 90, not too bad for a 3 bedroom. Um, so that is how I find the properties. That's going to be number one. Now, in this, um, we're talking about what you're looking for in properties. So the fix and flip and the BRRR are going to be very similar because both you want something that needs work. Um, Depending on the type of budget you're working with, can help determine the amount of work and the condition of the property that you're looking to target. But theoretically, the more work that needs to get done, the better deal you can get on it and the bigger spread you can have on the back end, whether flipping it or doing a cash out refinance. I typically go for properties that do need a good amount of work because of that reason I just said. The backside profit and spread is usually a lot better. So we'll take a look at this one right here in Sanford. Without knowing the comparables, the after repair value, something that I would warn to stay away from is foundation issues, but things like the roof, things like windows, siding, doors, all of those things are fixable. Everything is fixable, but sometimes foundation, see right here in this picture, um, it, sorry, it already has foundation repair right here. I can see that they remortared the bricks, and so there was likely foundational cracks, and that's common due to settling in the earth, but that's definitely not ideal. Okay, great. We don't really see anything there, but that could lead to leaning floors. Could lead to door frames that are off and don't close properly. So even if you do fix that, it could lead to cracks in the walls, other structural integrity issues that you'll face, which will be kind of compounded and take away from your budget. So usually, if possible, we stay away from foundation issues, but something like a roof is not that bad because putting a brand new roof on the property makes it either desirable as, let me go back here, makes it desirable as a flip. You can advertise, hey, got a brand new roof. You're giving a great product to the market and to the consumer buying your property. And if you're holding it, then you can have the confidence that for the next 30 years, you have a brand new roof. Like you won't have to worry about it. And they are expensive, but in the grand scheme of things, they're not too bad for the benefit. Um, Other things that we look for are the siding condition. Sometimes, like that last one, it just needed to be power washed, it looked like. A lot of this wood siding can be just simply replaced. If it has wood rot, it's not that big of a deal. But something like this one, where it's kind of window frame, looks like it's rotted from the picture at least, and the fascia, that could be a repaint and it could be a wood replacement, but it's not too bad. That is more so cosmetic. See another crack here in the foundation. So this one probably wouldn't be ideal, but it does need a lot of work. So I'll talk on it about the other items. So inside, it has hardwoods, which is great. Hardwoods, as long as the flooring is level, can be refinished. They're highly desirable. Their longevity is great. I mean, this house is from the 50s and still has original flooring. And if you refinish it properly, it's desirable from a buyer's perspective for flip and refinancing. It's less money to refinish a floor than to replace the entire floor. So that's good. As far as the other items go, the painting, the cosmetics, this is not a big deal. You would basically strip it down, prime it, paint it, any type of like door frames that need to get updated. You see if it's kind of like chipped away. Wouldn't necessarily recommend just painting over this. You certainly could. That's a way to save money, just depending on the rest of your budget. But if you're doing a BRRR, I would say to repaint. If you're doing a flip, I would say to replace. You got to think in the mindset between the two. For the flip, you're offering a product to the market, so you want it to be top quality. You want it to be nicely finished. Imagine if you were buying a flip, you wouldn't want to buy something that was botched together and cheaply done. Um, you want to buy something that's in great shape. If you're doing a BRRR, your goal is to update it to market value, but not to overspend, because you're going to be putting a tenant in there, and that refinance is going to be, the property condition is going to be looked at differently because it's an appraiser. It's not a homeowner who's putting their whole heart and emotion into it. So things like this, it would be, the light fixtures, repainting, refinishing. In a lot of the older homes, if you see the wooden panels, sometimes they have drywall behind them, the sheetrock, but sometimes they're just directly on the studs. And so if you're doing a BRRRR, what you could do is paint them just to liven up the room if they're in good condition. If you're doing a flip, I would recommend to replace them. Either take them off and then utilize the sheetrock behind them, or take them off. There's no sheetrock, install sheetrock for the market. So overall looks good. This is going to be the kitchen. So the kitchen is a blank slate, which certainly helps in both strategies because you get to fully build it yourself. This ceiling right here, these office tiles, they're not going to do in either situation. You would need to take them down and put sheetrock up. But that's just fine to look brand new. Then here we have, it looked like there was top cabinets. There was certainly bottom cabinets. Here's the kitchen faucet right here. Maybe not due to the age. There was a dishwasher, but it's really not a big deal to run a dishwasher line. So we put a dishwasher here. And this right here, I can tell, looks like that's where the washer and dryer were. So in some of these older houses, yeah, that's definitely the dryer outlet, and then the plug, and then the washing machine. So something to consider is that this house would have them in the kitchen, but overall not a huge deal, especially as a rental. But as a flip, if you make it nice enough, a buyer, that's how this house is. The windows, that's something more so in person that you'd have to tell. Windows, I would not usually touch on a BRRRR unless they are broken, not functioning. Usually what you can do is refinish them. But on a flip, it's very important to, again, to produce that nice product. So you can put new energy efficient windows that will increase the value, that will entice buyers because they'll save money on their electricity. The home will be quieter. But yeah, you could literally custom make this kitchen, put in cabinets that you like, a countertop, a sink. So this is a nice blank slate. The flooring here, just depending on how level it is, you can either put flooring right on top of it or tear it up and put new flooring down. In cases that we can, it's ideal to clean the floor and then put new flooring on top. It saves time, it saves money, and if it's a solid flooring down there, it's not like gross or damaged, then it's an additional layer of effectively insulation. It's not true insulation, but an additional layer helps. So this home doesn't seem so bad for a flip. This is the kitchen area. These doors are dark. That's from years of like not being cleaned. You would either, again, in person, be able to tell if you're going to refinish this door or replace it. Refinishing, again, is great for birds. Replacing is good for flips. So something that I would check in this home is the electrical. I would have an electrician come in there and check, because you would want to know if you're selling it, it needs to be up to code. If you are burying it, then as long as it's functioning well, you wouldn't necessarily need to replace it. Here's the bathroom. It's a 3-1, so this is the single bathroom. It's not that large, and moving walls is not necessarily a great idea. It definitely costs a lot of money. You need to get additional permits and approvals. It extends the time. But I mean, it has a tub right here that could be reused. Typically, I would say, well, let's rip all this out um, and get new flooring in there, get a new shower tub combo. If you're doing a rental, like a BRRR, what we're going to do is try to save the tub and put like a plastic surround, just depending on the level of the area. So maybe you tile it, maybe you put a plastic surround. Those are going to be two most cost effective. If you are flipping it, you are definitely going to make it as nice as possible and put tile. So new toilet, like I said, new flooring, nice new vanity, lights, and we would fix like any of this wood right here, replace that and paint it. Here's one of the rooms. This ceiling too, I would recommend to change to sheetrock. So yeah, those are the types of things that you look at for a fix and flip. So this one definitely would cost more money than just a general cosmetic that is ready to go and you're just updating it. But these are the types of things that I look at. And then this has a deck already. So I can see they kind of sistered these posts. And that's something you'll want to look at the structural integrity of, because that could certainly be a liability either way. Sometimes decks are good enough to like reseal, maybe replace a few wooden pieces, but overall, this one may be rotted to where you're going to need to replace it. And so, yeah. Anyways, I don't necessarily recommend this one because it looked like I had foundation issues, but that is what I look at for a flip on that example. And then let's go to realtor.com and I'll show you what I look for, not this one, in a buy and hold. So we'll go to Fayetteville. And then we'll go to price because we want to stay low. 150 and under. Great. Okay. This one looks good. So I know personally off the top of my head, Fayetteville, a 3-bedroom is going to rent for about 14 to 1600, depending on location and quality. Let's see this one's location more precisely. Okay, so Northern Fayetteville, not a bad area, right down the street from downtown. Right down the street is probably like 10 minutes. It's close to the base. The base is right here. So it would rent very easily, I know for sure. So let's take a look at it. Beautiful curb appeal. That's a great plus. Looks like it has a nice metal roof over the carport, actually over the whole house. Okay. Again, great curb appeal. Metal roof is great. Beautiful deck. A back house. So we'll look at the details. It looks like this has an ADU. So I think it's called access. What's it called? What does ADU stand for?
Additional dwelling unit.
Thank you. Additional. Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah, additional dwelling unit. Because I see the heat pump out here, potentially AC, which is great because if you're buying this, you could even rent the front out, rent the back. It has a dated kitchen, but new countertops, new sink. So you could effectively refinish the cabinets, put new knobs on them. They likely work great if these people put new countertops on them. And that's perfect. It has tile floors, has the dishwasher right there, island. Very nice. So it's slightly updated, slightly outdated. You can put a new vanity. if you're looking for just a turnkey rental, this one looks like it's definitely a winner. And let's see. And if you're looking for a BRRR, if you could get this down to a low enough price, you could add some updates to it and then potentially refinance. Wow, yeah. So they've made updates to it. This one I would call a turnkey rental. So let's see what the back looks like, the back unit. Okay, great neighborhood. I mean, yard. Okay, so the back unit is a shed. Oh, no, it's not. All right, so here's a bathroom. Yeah. So it's potentially a 1 bedroom / studio. It doesn't show a kitchen. Again, we'll look at the description. But what you're looking for in a turnkey rental, that's what I'm pointing out here, is a property that is in good shape, that doesn't need work, that doesn't need updates. It can be outdated slightly cosmetically, like this one is, but it's fully livable, and it's a 3-2, so that's perfect. Let's see what the details say. Detached building, craft room. Okay, so the back building is not a place for what's it called, for an additional rental unit, but that's quite all right because this would be very desirable as a rental. And yeah, so I'll touch on the rental numbers and then the fix and flip / BRRR numbers. So this rental is a 3-2 at 138 asking. I said that it would rent between 1350 and 1500. The way this property is, I would say more so in the 14 to 1500 range is a pretty safe bet. So when you're looking for a turnkey rental for buy and hold, you want the rental rate to be 1% or higher than the for the purchase price. So, for example, this purchase price is $138,000. You would want the rental rate to be $1,380 a month, which absolutely this meets the 1% rule. If you rent it for $1,400, $1,450, $1,500 or more, it beats the 1% rule. That's a general guideline. The higher you can go and closer to 2%, the more cash flow you're going to end up making. But generally, 1% means it's definitely good to look into as a turnkey rental. But when you're looking at a fix and flip, let me see if I have a whiteboard here. Yeah, let's see. Okay. You're going to want to, anyone want, let's see. Are you able to see my whiteboard? No? Here, let's see. How about this? Okay. There you go. Yeah. So for a flip, you're gonna want the purchase price to be, 1 second. Purchase price. Here we go. We'll start backwards. ARV, which equals after repair value, is a number that we'll need to know, regardless of this property's condition. At a fully updated rate, what does a property in this locale sell for in fully updated condition? So we'll start there. So the ARV, and then we work backwards. That way we can end up at our ideal purchase price. So we'll take the ARV and we'll multiply that by 0.75. That number will give us a 25% spread on our sale. It also gives you the option to BRRR. Let's say you put it on the market. Right now, this market's moving fairly slow. I know some investors who have multiple flips going on at a time, And just yesterday, I talked to one who had 8 on the market that they had recently done, and only 2 are under contract in the last like 3 weeks. So they're really sitting on them. That was in Houston, so it was a different market. But this formula and following this equation will help you have multiple exit strategies, which is key because the real estate market moves slow, but at the same time, it can move kind of fast. By the time you're done doing these repairs, depending on how long it takes, 2, 3, 4 months down the line, if it takes that long, then you get it on the market. We don't know how it's going to be. So giving yourself the most options is going to be the most helpful. So we'll take the after repair value and multiply that by 75%. Okay. That gives us the maximum amount of money we want to invest and have as our cost for this project. So once we have 0.75, okay, then ARV times 0.75. We'll have that number first. We will subtract the repair costs and repair costs. Okay, that'll work. Okay, so at that point, that is where we want to purchase. So because in that 25%, theoretically, you would also cover your closing costs and things like that, whether that be sale closing, purchase and sale closing, purchase and refinance closing costs. So that means if we have a 100K ARV times 0.75, we want to, oh yeah. And that's obviously equals 75K. And then we're going to subtract, let's say 25K in repair costs. And we want our purchase price to be 50K. That way you have the purchase at 50, you add 25 in repairs and holding costs, and then you're in it at 75, you can flip it for 25. Or if you refinance, most refinance, cash out refinances won't go above $75,000 or 75% of the value. They require you to keep 25% of the equity in the property. There are some lenders that will allow 80%, which is great because, and I always go for the most you can. That equity is going to be there regardless, and 5% difference is 5% you leave in the property or 5% you get cash out, and that money that you cash out is tax-free because it's a loan. So that's a great way that people are able to really stack their portfolio because they get that money out. It's tax-free. You can either literally use it as your personal income or reinvest it, and that's a great strategy. So this is for the flip and for the BRRRR strategy. And then for buy and hold, we're going to want to do purchase price. What's it called? Rent equals 1% or more of the purchase price. So that is how I find properties. That is what I look for when I'm looking at properties. I always do the eye test. It's not worth driving to a property if you are not going to really like it. I mean, if you can tell off the pictures, if you can get information from a listing agent even. So that Craigslist example I gave, if you have if you're talking about a property on the market and the listing agent only has one picture, call them and say, hey, what work does this need? Like, I'm interested in buying it. I'm a cash buyer, but I need you to be real with me. They want to sell it. And if you're a serious buyer, then in all hopes they share with you. Also, if a property is on the market, ask for the disclosures. Ask your broker to access the disclosures. That way they can review, hey, what is on there. Sometimes they don't say, sometimes they say no representation. It doesn't give the full picture, but it definitely helps. One other thing that I look at when considering a property, it's pretty important, is the floodplain. So we don't want to buy a property that is going to flood if just the slightest heavy rainstorm is there. So on the FEMA website, it'll show us where like flooding is most likely to happen. So we'll just copy this address. I'll drop this link in the chat first. Let's see, how do I do that? Chat, boom. Okay, so that's a good thing to save when you're reviewing properties. But we go here, put the address, search. Okay, so the way you read this, you don't really need to know all the details, but if you see right here, there's clearly a body of water. When I say clearly, this is what a body of water would look like. And
are you sharing your screen or?
Oh no, if I'm not, thank you for telling me. Here we go. So what I did was I came here, I copied the address, and then I came to over here. It was the FEMA website. I just have it saved. And then paste the address. And then it will show you the property location. And then I'll zoom out. To see. Okay, here we go. All right, so if you see right here, it looks like there's a creek, a stream, something like that. This is where it would flood. You can look down here, regulatory floodway, right? Without base elevate. Again, I don't really know these that well, but granted, this property is not in a flood zone. It's just shows the landscape. Now, if we were looking at one of these houses, for example, right, you can see there's homes under here. So these houses will flood. Maybe not every year, but if there's a bad enough rain, if there's a hurricane, this body of water seeps over the banks, and this is where it goes. So I would not recommend buying a house here. And if you do, 100% either you will be required by your lender to get flood insurance. So that's just a risk. Some people want to take it if it's a good enough deal. There's plenty of properties that aren't in flood zones where you wouldn't have to take it. So that's another thing I look at for fix and flips, for BRRRRs, for buy and hold. Just kind of an added headache and an added expense that simply is unnecessary. So that's what I look for when I'm looking at properties. And we'll love to answer any questions that you have. If you think I missed anything, yeah, open for it all.
Based on the current economic climate, what of the strategies you went over do you think would be, best suited for the times that we're in?
Yeah, so it's October 17th, 2023. Right now, a good strategy is to do a fix and flip. I know I mentioned that okay, here's my general. I'm a little bit different than other people. I'm not a fear monger. If you find a good enough deal, any will work. Okay. If you have the cash and you have ways to continue to build up cash, stacking a buy and hold portfolio is great. But how quickly are you personally, not you, but anybody personally making the 20% down payment required to buy a buy and hold? If that's how you want to build your portfolio, nice and slow, that's a great way to go. Fix and flips are going to be a great way to get big, quick hits of cash. And so for a couple of my clients, what we're doing is we're doing a fix and flip for their first one. They don't have a lot of capital, and they're going to parlay that into the expectation is one property, buy it, fix it, sell it. Okay, recoup their funds, make their profits, and then buy another fix and flip, and at the same time purchase a buy and hold. That way, that second purchase, let's say, is a buy and hold. That's their base of their foundation, and then they're flipping to be able to do that again. Depending on how that first project works, they may not be able to do the buy and hold. They may do another flip, and then at that point, they'll do a foundational rental and continue to flip. Maybe they'll BRRR if interest rates or if the deal presents itself in that manner. If you find a good enough deal, my favorite and many investors' favorites are the BRRR strategy, because you get the best of both worlds. You're finding a property that you add value to, and then you're able to rent it out, so you have cash flow. It might not be crazy because we're trying to max out the cash out refinance, especially if you hit at 80%, but you have a rental that has equity now, 20%, 20 to 25%. So that's added to your net worth, and it is increasing, as well as paying down principal and increasing in equity with appreciation. And then if you cash out, then you can do that again. You can then do a flip. So it kind of depends. This economic place. You mentioned to me, Melissa, that your lenders said that they would do 9%. You said DSCR, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's pretty good. It's not great. You know, if we were in the sevens, that would be perfect for a DSCR. But I personally did 2 DSCR projects on cash out refinances that were at 10 and 10 and a quarter. So barely less than a hard money loan. So at 9, I would say, hey, that's pretty great. And if the numbers work, perfect. So it really depends, because if you're not able to pull out a whole lot of cash and you're going to have to leave cash in there in that specific project, I would say flip it. I would not say, hey, leave your cash in, just get the rental, because the point is to grow your portfolio. So that's my thoughts. I didn't give an exact answer. I think it's depending on your financial situation. If you have the additional income to continue to invest, number one. Number two, if you don't necessarily, you're starting at one place, if you're able to find a sweet enough deal, I love the BRRR. I love the BRRR. And if you're not, and maybe you're going through it and it seems like it, and then it doesn't turn out that way, you know, the interest rate by the time you're refinancing goes from 9 to 10.5. That kind of really changes your cash flow. If the appraisal, because here's something else that could happen. The appraisal could come in low, and then you're not cashing out what you were expecting. You know, flipping could be the route. So yeah, that's my take on it.
And follow up. So in today's market, again, right, when we're thinking of in the fix and flip scenario, like, who are you, you know, essentially selling it to? Because if the everyday buyer is afraid, you know, they don't even really can't afford the interest rate that we're currently at, and technically investors, right, the whole point is to buy and get your money out. It's like, who are you selling it to?
Yeah, likely first-time home buyers, and also just other individuals relocating to the area. The reality is people are buying and selling. There are a lot of people who are out of the market right now due to being priced out, due to fear. But transactions are still happening every day. They just may take longer. And also, that's the importance of putting out a really great product, because inventory is low, buyers are, their money doesn't go as far, so they want to buy something great. They want to feel good about it. They want to be happy with it, spending these higher interest rates. So your target market is someone, in the market who's a first-time home buyer going from renting to buying or relocating. People are still doing that daily. But it's not going to be as, and some people are downsizing too. That's a big thing. They're capturing their equity. They're, accepting to pay more theoretically for the type of home that they're going into. But yeah, I see that happening a lot as well.
Follow up, because
Please.
they always have questions. In the fix and flip BRRRR scenarios, right? When you're talking about somebody who might not necessarily have a ton of capital up front, are they putting in like the sweat equity? Because I think about when you are putting in sweat equity, it might take you longer to finish something. And if the whole thing is like to get it done quickly and get it sold, but if you don't necessarily have the cash to be like, oh, let me hire all these people to help me get it done, how do you navigate those kind of scenarios?
Yeah, I don't recommend necessarily sweat equity unless you are like a professional yourself. The reason being is as you're owning that property, there's holding costs, and those holding costs can really add up and they eat into your profits. So I recommend utilizing a hard money loan that includes the renovation budget within the loan. That's not coming out of your own pocket. In some scenarios, you may have to essentially front the money for the contractors and then request what's called a draw. And I'm going to do a video over hard money loans more in depth as well to explain this. But what you do is you provide the lender with a scope of work and a budget and an associated cost for that budget. Let's say floors, right? Floors is easy one to give an example on. Let's say we need $8,000 is the budget for these floors. Well, let's get the contractors in there. Let's get the floors done. And when they're done, what you do is you submit a draw to the lender, which says, hey, the floors are completed. Send the inspector to check. And then once the inspector comes, it's a 24 to 48 hour period from the time you request to the time the inspector reports back to the lender. So it's very quick. And then once the lender receives the approval, they'll get pictures and the inspector will say, yes, the floors are completed. Then the lender will wire your money within 24 to 48 hours to your likely business account. And you can replenish your funds if you had to pay the contractor. If you have a contractor that's flexible, then you wouldn't have to come out any personal money or put it on a credit card. You would just take those funds and then pay the contractor.
Gotcha.
So,
thank you.
Yeah, that's the route I would recommend. Sweat equity is tough because you might mess up. It might take longer. So using a hard money loan that includes the renovation costs is ideal.
How do you say your renovation costs, right? So when we think about, right, us on this call, we're kind of novices in this. So, we're looking at a picture and we're saying, okay, well, I can tell it need work, but I don't know how much work this needs or how much that work costs.
Right. Yeah. So something you could do, I should certainly shoot a video on this as well, but something that you could do is just Google the cost and use kind of like a medium to higher end for usually per square foot or let's say per window. It'll give you an estimate. And the markets that I target and recommend targeting, they're not New York, LA, where costs are very high, even Raleigh proper, where costs are higher than Fayetteville. They're higher than Wilson, Rocky Mount, Burlington, things like that. That's one way to do it. Another way is I have kind of a formula for a light rehab, and this kind of comes more so with looking at things and working with me in training, looking at properties. But a light rehab could be $15 a square foot, which would be essentially paint, light fixtures, other small miscellaneous items. Then it would be, 25 dollars a square foot would be, or 25 or 30 really per square foot would be like a medium rehab, where you might be replacing floors, where there might be a water heater that needs to get replaced, some sheetrock work that needs to get done, painting, and then fixtures as well. And then you're pushing like $40, $45 a square foot if you're talking about a roof replacement, some siding repair, a deck repair, a more intensive item, maybe electrical work, HVAC. So that's something to look at, and knowing the big items that need to get replaced, like that one we looked at on Craigslist said, HVAC system. Typical HVAC system is anywhere from $7,500 to $10,000, depending on the size of the house and the quality of system that you get. So knowing that one-off large cost can help you, add up. A roof on, I think the home was around 950 square feet. That roof is going to be anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000, depending on your roofer. So, knowing what those big items cost is really helpful. And then kind of, again, working back, like adding up, but also working backwards. Like, okay, these are the big costs. Let's have those there. And then let's go backwards to the smaller costs. Because let's say it's a light rehab, but you need a roof and an HVAC, right? So it might be $20 a square foot for light rehab, but then you add, $7,000 and $8,000, 15 for those large items.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So to answer your question directly, more so with training, more so with practice, and estimating properties. Yeah, if you Google it, that'll give you a good estimate. And then generally, the whole goal is to work towards actually looking at the property, being prepared to pull a trigger and targeting a property that makes sense, having a rough estimate, and then getting a contractor there to give you more so an detailed estimate. Yeah. So we only have a couple more minutes. I really hope this helped, guide and what to look for, how to find properties, as you asked, how to estimate the type of repairs. I would say a light cosmetic repairs would be $20 a square foot. The turnkey rental that we saw that had new cabinets, new shower, and everything like that needed like painted cabinets, maybe some other small updates, I would put that at $20 a square foot. The other house that we saw on Craigslist that I really went through with foundational issues, I would put that at $45 a square foot. Really needs a lot of work. So that helps you give a range of what you'd be looking for. Yeah, I hope that helps.
That does. Thank you.
Cool.
Dimitri, I've got a follow-up question on that. So are you kind of using those rules of thumb you just mentioned about the dollars per square foot for a type of fixes that you need to do for the fix and flip or BRRRR method, for like that's your initial, say, like first pass at this is about what I think renovations would cost for like the purposes of like running your numbers, seeing if this is a viable investment for you. And then is there are you getting more into detail, and maybe could you just speak for a minute on you're saying you would recommend like a hard money loan to say like fund the repairs? Like what level of detail are they kind of looking for in terms of like, hey, these are the items that I'm going to have in my repairs, these are what I'm estimating for each one. Like how accurate are they kind of expecting for you to have those repair costs when you're trying to get the loan from them?
Yeah, so they will look at pictures of the property. Sometimes they will send an appraiser out there, could be internal. But a lot of the times it's kind of on your shoulders. Like you really want to know to the best of your ability what that's gonna end up being. Oh gosh, I can't answer that. So let me show you right here. This is a real life example of a rehab budget that I've had to use that my hard money lender provided. So if you could see my screen, I think so. This is what they gave me. So I had to put the purchase cost, the purchase price, inspections, appraisals. You know, they really want to know what is your all-in cost going to be. And then rehab costs, this is a formula from, there's right two columns. So they break it down. Interior carpentry. Do you need framing, which is door frames, window frames, things like that. Door and window replacement. And then other carpentry, whatever that may be. Drywall repair, plumbing. The rough is going to be like throughout the walls and like the preparation. The finish is going to be like P-traps and fixtures, sinks, shower nozzles, shower heads, things like that. Electrical, same thing. Rough is going to be running wiring. Finish is going to be light fixtures. Well, they may have light fixtures on here. No, but it's going to be light fixtures and what's it called? And outlets, right? And light switches. HVAC, rough, the duct work, things like that. Finish. Yeah, it's going to be like the system, you know, painting, labor for floor materials. So this is the breakdown. This is this hard money lender specifically. So whenever we painted the interior of the house, all the paint got done. We requested the draw for the paint. They sent the inspector, and then they wired us $1,800. That's pretty much how it goes. This is the breakdown. So it helps you in quoting and coming up with a scope of work, what you need, and then you can go based off of that. I typically recommend overshooting the budget because likely you're going to be over 15 to 20%. It's extremely rare that you're ever under budget. So this is the breakdown. Yeah. And they do labor on the left, some materials, like you see, so some floor materials, landscaping, termite, inspection and treatment, things like that, foundation structural. And then over here is materials. If you need any permits, if you need a dumpster, and then labor all the way down for similar items. So this is what they're looking for. And it's on you, and it's really important, which is why, you know, I work with my clients and, you know, have great connections as far as contractors go to help get as accurate of a number as possible. And once you get into it, you do your first few, you learn your lessons. The goal is working with me. You don't have to learn the hard lessons I had to learn. But that's definitely how they go about it.
Sweet, dude. That's super helpful. Yeah, I wonder kind of to Melissa's question about, you know, us being like novices and trying to figure out like how to estimate these things. If with working with you, if, you know, if we're taking kind of like a first stab at, you know, like assessing properties and trying to like make it, you know, doing some Googling and seeing how much things are going to cost. And then if we can like review it with you or like do it on one of these calls and like go through and like, hey, are we like in the ballpark or, you know, missing certain things on our repair costs, and can kind of use that to help that, you know, some of these opportunities that we're looking at, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I want to happen. Yeah, I'm not. You should not pull the trigger without reviewing with me. And yeah, that way I can, you know, help you save money, help you, you know, save money, not lose money, and maybe point out some things that I see that with a little bit more trained eye.
Sweet. Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Well, thank you for joining tonight. I know we're a little bit over. Appreciate your time. I hope this was helpful. Follow up with any questions you may have. We'll be right back next week, Tuesday night. I'll have another topic. If there's anything that you'd like me to touch on, I know we talked about hard money loans. it seems definitely that estimating rehab is a big deal as well, that you'd like a little bit more training on. Repetition is going to be the key. Don't be afraid to do it on your own and then mess up. As long as you're getting that repetition, I can correct you in the right way. Both of you guys are very like coachable. So it's okay. As long as you're trying and you're using some of the tips I gave, you're down the right track.
So
But yeah, hope you all have a great night. We'll see you.
sounds great. Thanks, Dimitri.